Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. We got to talk about, unfortunately, we got to talk about the scandal of Northwestern. There's some things going on in the Northwestern program in college football that we thought were done with, thrown away. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But Kirk Cousins, movie star of the show? We'll talk about that next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Excited about today's show because we get to talk about Kirk Cousins, but not Kirk Cousins on the field. Kirk Cousins behind the camera. Kirk Cousins in front of the camera. Kirk Cousins raw and uncut. Kirk Cousins is now an actor. I don't know if he's going to get a SAG award. I don't know if he's going to be up for an Emmy, but Kirk Cousins is doing something very un-Kirk Cousins-like, and I think I know why. But I want you guys to know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Just visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more. You can also go to the FanDuel app as well after you do all that. But if you visit FanDuel.com/Locked On, got some gifts for you in there. Some no-sweat first bets. Make sure you be a part of that. But again, it's going to make every moment more with FanDuel. So as I bring my producer to the show, Sam Ekstrom, it's good to see you on a beautiful Tuesday morning. We got Robert Blanton joining us, former Vikings cornerback, Golden Domer from Notre Dame. So we'll talk to him a little bit about the Big Ten and does he want Notre Dame? Because people are saying by 2027, Notre Dame is full-time in the Big Ten football. That's the next echelon of where Notre Dame's going to go because NBC is no longer a big deal. Because everybody has a college TV deal. It used to be NBC and Notre Dame were exclusive. Everybody loved it. Notre Dame, like that was the huge thing. Like Notre Dame, NBC football, Notre Dame versus Michigan, Notre Dame versus Michigan State, Notre Dame versus USC. Well, now TV is a little bit easier to get. Now national games are a little bit easier to get on TV and for people to see. So I think the allure of the only nationally televised game every week has gone away. Also, I think from an NBC standpoint, NBC is like, Notre Dame is not what they used to be. Like, we're not getting what we used to get out of like the Jerome Bettises and the Michael Floyd's. It's not what it used to be with Notre Dame football. You're not having that Notre Dame versus USC, and it's a big deal anymore. It's just Notre Dame football. And I don't know if it's because they went to the ACC a little bit for their school stuff. I have no idea, but it does not seem, because their football schedule is kind of ACC-ish, but it doesn't, Notre Dame to me doesn't really hold the allure that it used to, that it was super like, oh my goodness, it's Notre Dame. But I do feel like if they end up in the Big Ten, it brings the luster back. It gives them some big games, but we're not talking about that just yet. Robert Blanton will be joining us on the show later. We're going to talk about Netflix, Sam. What's going on with Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins is about to be a star, Ron Johnson. Quarterback drops tomorrow, which follows Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes, and Kirk Cousins for all of last season. And what a great season for them to choose Kirk Cousins, where the Vikings had their best season in recent history. Kirk Cousins kind of comes out of his shell. And then you've got Mahomes, who wins the Super Bowl. Mariota is the journeyman who gets benched along the way. So you get all perspectives on the show. But Ron, that trailer dropped yesterday, and I think Kirk Cousins is going to be a focal point of this show. I just think that he's so grounded in sort of his family life, and he's got all these great perspectives that I think he's going to be a great interview. Like when they go to the talking head, I think he's going to be actually one of the more interesting of them. I never found Mahomes to be that compelling to listen to. He's fun to watch. I don't know if he's that fun to listen to. So I'm excited to see Kirk shine on this show. What about you?
Yeah, so this is what I think about it. One, so you just brought up a point that I did not know. So this was filmed during the season.
last year. Yeah, it followed them all year.
I thought I thought this was like recent. As soon as the season ended, they tried to get some short stuff in. I did not realize they were following the whole season, which they did a good job keeping it under wraps, because I was around the facility a lot. And I guess and maybe Netflix didn't have access to TCO, because I do know sometimes some of that stuff is added. But even being at US Bank Stadium, and maybe they don't have the rights to that either, because the NFL rights, I don't know if Netflix has the rights to the NFL to be able to film footage, unless they signed a deal with the NFL saying, hey, we want to film the footage, but we won't air it. We won't use it for anything but our show, and you guys get final look. So it'd be interesting to see where they had access. Like, did they have access just to the parking lot? Kirk Cousins walks in and then it's done, and maybe Kirk Cousins has a GoPro that he sets up and it films him in meetings and stuff, because some of that stuff is top secret. So I know coaches don't want that getting out. Even if Netflix has it and they say they're not going to use it, come on now. TMZ has paid a lot of money for secrets. So we know there's some people out there by the name of Belichick. People out there that would pay for some top secret Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes stuff to help out Mac Jones, but that wouldn't be the Patriots. They don't cheat. They've never done that. No. They've never filmed the Jets during practice or deflated a football to win a Super Bowl. They've never done that. So when you think about that, that's even more intriguing, because this season was a Hollywood. Now, other than the ending, 4th down, check down, that's not a Hollywood ending. But the season, 11 games, 1-score games, like Netflix got their money's worth. Mm-hmm. Kirk taking so this is the thing now. Did Kirk Cousins take the shirt off in the chains because he had Hollywood backing him up? So now I got a little bit of conspiracy about this shirt off chains, Kirko chains, because was this like a Netflix thing, or was this really Kirk being unlocked by Kevin O'Connell? Because even that, like, at what point did he sign the deal with Netflix? Because I can't say, because I was going to say like, oh, this was after the season, Kevin O'Connell's just unlocking all kinds of stuff in him. But if this is like Netflix had already got to him, like maybe right when Zimmer left, and Kevin O'Connell and him, and you know what I mean? That's what I want to know, that, Sam. I want to know like when that happened. Because if Netflix got to him before he was really unlocked by Kevin O'Connell, maybe the shirt off and the chains was just a Netflix ploy. And you know what? Hats off to Kirk Cousins if he played up to the cameras like that. Good, great, because I see him sit down with Julie Cousins, his wife, and she makes a comment. You know what I wonder, Sam, when they did it, because he and we talked in Orlando, and I wonder if Netflix followed.
Was Netflix filming in the corner?
I know, right? Like, was Netflix somewhere standing there when Kirk and I were talking? I did not notice a boom mic, but man, I wonder. Like, I wonder
if he had a lapel.
Maybe he had the lapel mic. He was taking Cooper, or I think his name is Cooper, his son, to get the Black Panther deal that day. Sat and talked to my daughter and both my daughters and their friend, and my wife and myself. And so I'm wondering if we're going to end up on Netflix. I wonder if Kirk Cousins was just playing up this whole offseason, being super nice for Netflix, taking the shirt off, hanging out with the boys on the back of the plane. Or did Kevin O'Connell really unlock it and Netflix just got their money's worth? Like, because when I would have thought Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins, I would not have put him as a celebrate, rah guy that I want to watch on Netflix. Like, I wouldn't have. I'd have been like, dude, this is going to be so boring. He's going to talk about Ephesians. He's going to talk about Philippians 4:13, how he can do all things through Christ. He's going to talk about 4:12, how, he's been with and without and he's had nothing. He's going to wear a flannel shirt to dinner. Him and Julie, because I feel like he made a joke too, talking about every time I do something, it's a thing now. Like, if I just want to be myself and have fun, it's a thing. So I even wonder if Julie played up to the cameras and like, Kirk came home and she's like, okay, so you're not gonna take your shirt off for me with the chains? Like, it's just for your teammates? like there's so much. It's like an onion. You can keep undoing the layers and after layer, the blooming onion. I remember that meal. I never had it because I don't like onion like that, but it looked good. But it's like you unopen up an onion, and there's so many layers to this Kirk Cousins onion. And it makes you cry because Kirk Cousins loosening up and becoming his own man. It brings a tear to my eye. Like, there's an Emmy coming. Netflix, you did it. You got Kirk Cousins to win 11 games by 1 score. I don't know. Like, again, I'm not going to say we do know the dude for the Colts bet on his own team, or bet on football or whatever he bet on to get suspended. Who knows what was going on? Did Netflix put money on some of these games? Like, there's so much now that I want to know. But Patrick Mahomes, they won a Super Bowl, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They won a Super Bowl.
So that. I mean,
that'll be compelling.
Like, the only one that I don't get is Marcus Mariota. That's the one that doesn't fit because Kirk Cousins has a ridiculous season, does some cool stuff. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, wins the Super Bowl. And then you got Marcus Mariota. Now, I get the getting benched, so maybe that's a different side of it for Desmond Ridder. But yeah, I don't know. That's the one thing that's going to be interesting to see is how this unfolds. I do believe so. So you think Kirk Cousins will be the star? I think Patrick Mahomes, of course, will be the star because it's a Super Bowl. His wife, his brother might not end up in the deal because his brother is crazy. But maybe they'll show some TikToks of his brother and his wife. Maybe show Patrick Mahomes emotions when he sees the TikToks, like, this is stupid. Who knows where that goes with it? Or if he said, look, this is not about my brother, it's about me and my wife. I don't want my brother in this. So I think there's going to be some duality between Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes of who's the star. But I think Desmond Ridder for sure is at the bottom. We got Robert Blanton coming up in a minute. But Sam, what are your thoughts? I know you think Kirk Cousins will be the star. I know I will say if I had to rank it, I'm going Mahomes 1A, Kirk 1B, and then you got Mariota at the bottom. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that we're learning that there is a lot to like about Kirk Cousins' personality. Like, he is kind of quietly pretty funny, and for so many years, he, as he says, had no swag, right? And he was kind of kept muted by Mike Zimmer, but now he's starting to show some of that swag that he didn't have before, and the contrast is just funny. So, and I think Kirk knows how to make fun of himself. That's the best part of his sense of humor, and that always plays well to an audience. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to binge that tomorrow, and I hope they kind of let you in on the ups and the downs, and it's not all just kind of propaganda, like all positive. I hope there's some stuff that shows you the realities of it as well, not just the fluffy stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a lot of stuff. The good thing was there was no like Vikings boat party or anything like that, so we don't have to worry about that. The Chiefs, I don't know if they had any off the field drama. Falcons, you might see some Cordero Patterson conversation in there. Who knows? Wait, because Mariota was the Falcons, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it might be some Cordero Patterson conversation in there. Who knows? But we got Robert Blanton joining us on the Hang on Ron Johnson segment. Looking forward to sitting down with him. As I explained, Golden Domer, former Vikings DB, now college football coach. He and I golfed yesterday at the Kyle Rudolph Jason Zucker event for the Masonic Children's Hospital. Great event. I mean, come on now. Like, you get cigars. I got Chubby's shorts. I got, all kind. I got a cup that like was, I don't know if it was hand drawn, but for kids, it's like a water cup for my kids, but it has like, I mean, there was a lot. I got a laundry bag where I get 50% off on my dry cleaning, and I'm going to get my money's worth because I have not dry cleaned one suit from last season. I don't have a suit day yet until the season starts. So I've had no weddings. I'm too old to go to a bunch of weddings. So I've had no weddings this off season as well. So I've not had to get my suits clean. So I got every single suit just about dirty. I'm not gonna lie, Sam, for my headshots for the season, we took our headshots and whatever. I had to put two suits together to make a suit because when I went through my laundry, I realized I did not plan for picture day. And so I just had to I wore like the navy, vest with the navy pants, and then I wore the gray blazer. So I had to pay. So I got a bunch of dirty clothes. I'm looking forward to getting 50% off on that. So thank you to Kyle Rudolph and Jason Zucker. But we got Robert Blanton coming up on the Hang Around Johnson segment. Before we do that, we got a word from our sponsors.
Yes, we do. We're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook partner of Locked On, and there you can bet baseball. You can even bet the All-Star game tonight. National League is favored. Over-under is 7, and you can bet World Series futures. They still kind of believe in the Twins. The Twins have the 8th best odds to win the World Series. Kind of a head-scratcher, but we'll go with it. Plus 2,400. Put down 10, win 240 if the Twins cash and win the World Series in miraculous fashion. You can do all of that at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. If you're a new customer, you can win 10 times your first bet in bonus bets. So bet 20, get 200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. Check that out at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You get paid instantly when you win. They've got great promotions, safe, secure, easy to use. That FanDuel Sportsbook app. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball.
Well, now it's time for the Hang Around Johnson segment. I got Robert Blanton joining me. He and I connected through some mutual associates, Tracy McDonald over at the Minnesota Vikings. All that know Tracy McDonald. If you don't get to know her, she does everything for player engagement for the Minnesota Vikings. But she connected us. Robert was getting into coaching. I had coached before, but also at Context at the University of Minnesota. And, now we've kind of, become friends just through events. Everybody does the same golfing events around here in Minnesota. And last up was Kyle Rudolph's. And so I bring Robert Blanton into the show, happen to see him. And, I always feel like, if somebody crosses your path, you might as well see what God has in store for it. And so I live by that. And so here we go with Robert Blanton joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. So Robert, man, you played for the Vikings. And just to throw it out there quick, what do you remember? Like, what are some of the best memories, or one of, like, if you had to go back and say, here's one of the best memories I had as a Minnesota Viking? Because I know you're young, you're only 33 years old. I miss those days of being 33. But when you look back at, your time with the Vikings, man, what was some like great memories you have?
Honestly, just the locker room, the people, the organization was top notch, top tier people in there, great people. And even coming back now and doing those events, it's just good to be around the people and be around great people. The fan base was awesome. One of the big games I remember is AP going off for 230 against Green Bay, and we beat them and ended up going to the playoffs. The next week they beat us in the playoffs, though. But it was that stadium was rocking. That was when they had the old Metrodome back then. Yeah.
No, I played in Metrodome at the University of Minnesota, so I remember that hard concrete turf. You could call it whatever you want. That was hard. That thing hurt. It would take skin off if you didn't want to wear tough skin or some type of sleeve. It was a dangerous stadium. Not going to lie. It was fast. You played fast. You moved fast. But you had to learn, because I came from Detroit, Michigan, so we had grass fields. We didn't have that next turf stuff these kids have nowadays. Even in Michigan and Detroit, they have the turf stuff. But we had grass. So coming from grass and having to learn how to slide on that hard crap, that hurt. It hurt. Not going to lie. I have a bunch of like scars probably still to this day that were like, I felt like it took my skin down to the bone. But when you talk about, teammates, some of the guys you play with, who's a teammate that you feel like you got the most out of, or you had the like this is a guy I really learned from playing for the Vikings?
Maybe a little cliche, but of course my guy Harrison Smith, just because I've known him for so long, went to Notre Dame together, and I felt like we were always competing against each other, even in college. So it was befitting that we got drafted by the Vikings together. Of course, he was a first rounder and probably a potential one-day Hall of Famer, and I was always trying to compete and stay up to the standards of that guy. But we were also roommates on the away games, and just kind of talking, having those hotel nights, picking the brain and asking him how he's seen the game was always a good advantage for me.
Yeah, and you said that you guys played at Notre Dame together. You guys got drafted in 2012 together. Your last year with the Vikings, 2015, was our first year. So I do remember you from that. Our first year of doing Vikings Game Day Live, when we signed that TV deal. We started hosting Vikings Game Day, like I said, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, this is our ninth. This is my ninth year. This is crazy. I don't feel that old. But in my ninth year, it's going to be my ninth season of doing Vikings Game Day Live, Vikings post game as well. But I do remember you because you guys had, of course, Sendejo was one of the like headhunters in that group and so on and so forth. But when you look at your Notre Dame days with Harrison Smith and you guys end up at Minnesota together, did that help, like going into a program with another rookie that you had already known, been friends with? Because sometimes you end up on a team and you know nobody, and so you have to create fake relationships somehow, some way through DBs or whatever it might be. Did that help a little bit?
I'll say the Vikings have treated the Notre Dame guys pretty well, and when we got here, John Carlson was already here, John Sullivan was already here, and then of course Kyle Rudolph was already here. So then they added Harrison and then myself. So when I got in the door, there was already 5, including myself, Vikings on the roster, which was great. So a ton of guys, ton of Notre Dame guys that they treated well, and I think the Irish have done okay for the Vikings and produced somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, the Irish have done okay across the board for the NFL. We know that. I mean, I grew up in Detroit, so I'm friends with Jerome Bettis. And so I've heard a lot about Notre Dame when I was growing up because Jerome, I still have like a football from Jerome when he was at Notre Dame when I was in I think I was in 8th grade or something. He had a football camp back in Detroit. And I remember, and then I came back and did his camp when I played for the Ravens when he was a Steeler. But yeah, no, I've heard a lot about Notre Dame through Jerome. Javen Hunter, I don't know if you remember Javen Hunter, play receiver at Notre Dame back in 98 to 2001. We were drafted together to the Baltimore Ravens. So I heard about it then. Anthony Weaver played D-tackle, D-line for Notre Dame. So he came over to the Ravens with me. So I've had a lot of Notre Dame interactions over the years. So I've heard a lot about the school, a lot about the program. When you think about Notre Dame as a program, you guys have been independent forever. The Big Ten has created a conglomerate now. They're going to get USC and UCLA, 16 teams. The next step I heard is to get to 20 teams and create their own mega conference with 10 and 10 on each side, or maybe 5, 5, and 5 with divisions. And then they're going to do. And Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick Show, friend of ours, Dan Patrick, NBC, Tegna family. I think it was Paulie. I forgot which guy made this bet, but he made a bet that he'll take ice to the groin or a pie to the face if Notre Dame is not playing in the Big Ten full time by 2027. Do you feel like that is a chance that's going to happen? If Notre Dame were to pick a conference, do you feel like the Big Ten is where they're going to go?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two big time conferences as you look at college football. One, of course, is the SEC. The next big time conference is the Big Ten, and I don't see Notre Dame staying independent too much longer. I think the resources and money is becoming, very intriguing for the Irish. Typically, they were better off on their own, not splitting that revenue. Now, I think it's starting to look a little better, and joining a conference also feels a little better, especially as you start to get into college football playoffs. And they're now expanding the college football playoffs. Everything that's going on in college football just naturally makes sense for Notre Dame to make that move. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, even earlier than that.
Yeah, because, I mean, right now, Notre Dame receives $26 million from NBC in its ACC agreement. But the school, this is just expectations. This is what people, you're in the finance world. You know how people do.
Oh, yeah.
They lie. Their valuation, they're saying, should be around $60 million per year if they were to sign a new deal. But if you were to take that $60 million, multiply it by 10 teams, you're at $600 million.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to do that again and double it, because you have 20 teams, you're at $1.2 billion. The way it's set up right now, this was crazy. The Big Ten deal right now is for $2 billion.
Yep.
So for Notre Dame, you're right. Financially, they're going to make more by joining the Big Ten because that $2 billion or $1 billion, because Kevin Warren signed it before he went to the Bears, and I think now it's $2 billion, is going to keep growing. Like if I'm ESPN or ABC or whoever, NBC or Fox, the Big Ten network, if I'm looking at the Big Ten and I want Ohio State versus Notre Dame, I want Notre Dame versus Michigan, I want Notre Dame versus USC, I want Notre Dame versus UCLA, I want Notre Dame versus Michigan State, I want Ohio State versus Michigan. I think $3 to $4 billion is not a hard number to throw out there because you're going to get all the eyes and they're going to bring all the people. So you're right. I think you're right. I think it is coming. I know Stanford has mentioned they want to be they have not said they want to be in the Big Ten. But they have been invited. But they're worried about like the Big Ten standards for grades and theirs being so different and from a recruiting standpoint, which I don't think will matter anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to become the Northwestern of the Big Ten.
Correct. Yeah, and we're not gonna talk about Northwestern right now, but academically, you don't want to have that. You don't want to have to compete academically. True. I mean, you don't want to be the Northwestern football program off the field or academically. Like you don't want to be either right now. When you look at your time with the Minnesota Vikings, again, you were under Mike Zimmer. When Zimmer, and I'm pretty sure you watch TV, you hear Harrison Smith and guys and Eric Kendricks make comments. A lot of guys said Kevin O'Connell was a culture change. Like they said, having Kevin O'Connell was a culture change. And that doesn't mean bad. I think when people hear the word culture sometimes and change, they think it means it's always for the better. It's not better, it's different. Yes. Mike Zimmer ruled with an iron fist. He was very like performance driven. Kevin O'Connell is more, I mean, he's young. He's in his, late 30s, early 40s. He's young. His goal, late 30s. His goal is to be like not friends with these guys, but get a relationship. It's more of a relationship-based team now versus I'm the head coach, you're going to do what I say. But what do you remember about Mike Zimmer?
So I was pretty, I don't know if I was fortunate or unfortunate, but I was pretty fortunate. Leslie Frazier actually brought me in, defensive coach. And then, so I had 2 years with Coach Frazier, 2 years with Mike Zim, both defensive coaches. Mm-hmm. And you played the game, defensive coaches and offensive coaches are very different, mentality, structure. We usually say defense is kind of a rock band concert. You're going to turn up, it's going to get wild and crazy. Offense is a symphony. It's a little more peaceful. So very different cultures. I understand that. Not bad. One's not good. One's not bad. You just got to understand when you go from a defensive guy to an offensive guy, it's going to be drastically different just because of that symphony versus rock band type of mindset and culture. And defensive guys have to be that way. We have to try to create chaos on the defensive side of the ball. You want big hits. You want turnover. It's a different game compared to the offense. But I thought Zim did a really good job when he came in. He got the Vikings to the playoffs a good amount and competed, got to an NFC Championship game. I thought he did a really good job. And in football, a lot of what you do is going to be, tied to how successful your quarterback is. And if you got a really good quarterback, you got a really good chance to, compete for that Super Bowl.
Yeah. And speaking of that, like you've heard how the Minnesota Vikings are never going to win a Super Bowl. They went to it 4 times, never won it. So they were the Buffalo Bills before the Buffalo Bills happened. Have been close, been very close time and time again. Brett Favre, the Minneapolis Miracle, and they just couldn't get over the hump. When you were, under Leslie Frazier, then under Zimmer, and you saw the defense, kind of like, hey, we just have to do this for games and blah, blah. Like, what do you think it's going to take for the Minnesota Vikings to, to take that next step and not say win one, but get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think they're moving in the right direction. They got some young guys in the building that are passionate, high energy, and like you said, building those relationships. And football is a one-possession game. The close ones are usually one possession. Hey, a play here, a play there can change your life. And sometimes having those relationships with your players gives them a little extra edge to go out and compete for you on that game day. Hey, I'm going to put it on the line for my coach. So I think the Vikings are definitely heading in the right direction, doing the right thing. They got a great team. They got great coaches over there. I spent a little time with them. They just got Brian Flores as a D coordinator. I just think they're on a great trajectory to get back to where they want to be and compete and win the Super Bowl.
And you play for, speaking of great talent with the Minnesota Vikings, you play with some really, from 2012 to 2015, you play with some really, really like elite talent. We're not talking about Kyle Rudolph. We're not going to talk about the offensive guys, Adrian Peterson. Looking at this defense, when you think about Brian Robson, you look at Kevin Williams, you look at Jared Allen, Chad Greenway, Jasper Brinkley, Aaron Henderson, Antoine Winfield. What do you remember the most about like a guy like Antoine Winfield?
Dude, love Tweez, man. He was a all-time pro. That probably is the best situation I think for any rookie to walk into, is to come into a room where there's 10+ year vets in that room that have competed at a high level, who's done it the right way. Love Tweez, just a true professional every day about his work, taking care of his body, doing the proper things, warming up. As a young guy like myself, I was used to just waking up and going 100 miles an hour and not really thinking about much. And then, Tweez kind of took it to the next level of talking about, hey, do this for your body. Do these after practice, pre-practice workouts, after practice things. It was just awesome being around those vets, man, and truly helped my career out.
And again, looking at you said that, like doing the little things. Now you're a coach. Now you're coaching. Where are you coaching at?
So I'm coaching at Miami of Ohio.
Yep.
So we're a MAC school. awesome place to be for any high schoolers watching, baby.
And I will say, Minnesota does have, I don't know where you guys recruit at, but Minnesota does have a lot of kids that end up at like NDSU that become really good. They go to the NFL. When you look at guys from this area, Wisconsin, so on and so forth. But when you think about your time now as a coach, learning all that stuff from guys like Antoine Winfield, what are you bringing from the league, guys you play with when you played to now be able to give that to college kids?
Honestly, the development and being patient with the development process, especially in college, we're looking for guys to come in and play right away. Hence the transfer portal and why it's so crazy every year. If guys aren't playing, you're like, hey, come play here right now. So taking those younger guys and actually putting the time in and developing them, teaching them the process of how it's done and not trying to rush them to get on the field right away. Even a young guy got coming up, I was like, hey, I might give you 10 to 20 plays a game just to kind of get your feet wet rather than throwing the guy into the fire and killing his confidence week one or something, And then just all the little things we do, especially with all the technology you have now with GoArmy and PFF, all the analytics that you can get. You can really help those guys develop pretty quickly. But, a lot of things you got to think of is just be patient with these young guys, bring them along the right way. And that's kind of what Tweez and some of those vets did for us when I was with the Vikings.
And two quick ones before we get out of here. There's Ron Johnson. Robert Blanton is the Ron Johnson Show. And this is the Hang on to Ron Johnson segment. You were blessed with the opportunity to start alongside Harrison Smith, but then you also had Captain Munnerlyn, and then you had Xavier Rhodes, a young Xavier Rhodes. One, what do you remember about like Rhodes' clothes before he really got going?
Dude, he was a freak, man. The dude was like, 6'2", 215, ran 4.4. Just an absolute freak. He was bigger than any safety. He was our biggest DB, and he could run and move. Really confident guy, cool to be around in the locker room. Good teammate, and just an all-time competitor, man. He was really out there trying to compete and perfect his craft every day. He didn't think he was too big to listen to the coaches or anything like that, man. Really good kid.
And when you think about, I have to ask this, Andrew Sendejo, he was in you guys' backfield. He was known as the friendly fire guy because he would hit the other team and he would hit his own teammates. How nervous sometimes were you being like on special teams or somewhere where Andrew Sendejo is somewhere roaming like a missile and he might hit you?
Hey, it was always fun. We were always racing and talking some trash, before we go down on kickoff or something like that or punt. At that point, we were both trying to stay on the team through special teams before I started. And then Sendejo ended up starting as well for some years and doing a great job. But you gotta keep your head on a swivel and know who your teammates are, man. You get rolled up on pretty quickly.
Well, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Robert Blanton. I want to thank you, man, for joining me on the Hang with Ron Johnson segment, man. Great to talk to you. Definitely, because I just know covering the Vikings. I'll never forget Michael. I remember Michael Thomas, I think, decapitated. I can't remember who, but he hit somebody ridiculously hard. And then I think it was Andrew Sendejo, or maybe it was Xavier Rhodes. He gave him a concussion. But then Xavier, and then we got into it on Twitter. Because I posted the video, and then of course Michael Thomas got involved, and then another guy got involved talking about the route was they were trying to tell me the route, and I'm like, dude, yeah, I work for Fox, yeah, I do the game day show, but I don't think you guys realize I played receiver in the NFL. I know the route concept. I know what he's supposed to do on a rub route. You're not supposed to put your helmet in somebody's ear hole on a rub route. You're supposed to stand up, turn sideways, and then he's in your way. If you're running the slant, you just run the slant. You don't put your helmet in somebody's ear hole. So, but yeah, I now remember, I think Sendejo later came back and absolutely decleated somebody, got a flag, but we were all sitting there this dude is dangerous. Because he almost hit his own teammate and he hit the other guy. It's just I could not imagine playing cornerback, knowing I'm chasing a guy inside, he's running a slant route, and I'm sending them to Andrew Sendejo because it's dude, please be accurate and hit him and not me.
80-20.
80-20 to hit the other guy, or 80-20 to hit his own 80 to hit his own teammate?
He's going to hit the receiver. 80-20 hit the receiver.
Well, that 20% of the time, man, keep your head on the swivel, duck and roll, get out of his way and let him blow somebody up. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Robert Blanton, man. I want to thank you guys. Coming up next, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. We'll probably go about 30 seconds each. We're going to spend some time on Northwestern, though. But when we do that, we'll be back after this. Well, man, I enjoy Robert Blanton. Sam, I don't know if you got a lot out of it, but I loved the Harrison Smith. Like, we competed. That's the one thing I didn't hit on enough. You know, like, how often did you look at Harrison Smith's stats? Because I looked at the 2015 stats, or 14 when he started with them. He only had 1 pick. Harrison Smith had 5 interceptions. So I know there was some, like, you know, and Munnerlin had 2. Xavier Rhodes had 1. So I know there was some, like, damn, this dude got 5 interceptions. Like, come on, man. Like, I gotta get one. Like, I wonder how often he maybe went out of Zimmer's scheme. Because we know Zimmer wasn't a fan of that. But how often he might have went out of Zimmer's scheme. Like, oh, cover 2, screw this. I'm going after the ball. We got the Daily 3 coming in next. Before we do that, I just want to let you guys know, SiriusXM is a proud partner with Locked On Sports Minnesota. You can download the SXM app. Just go whatever platform you use. If it's Android or iPhone, you can just search SXM, SiriusXM. Any of those will get you to the SXM app, and then you can download it, and you can get the Twins broadcast. You can get every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast. Here's the thing. Maybe you want to hear a different team. You can search any team, but if you search Twins, you'll get the Twins. You'll get every pitch. If you maybe want to follow a different team because you're like, look, I got a parlay going with FanDuel, you can follow that team. You can also search Locked On Sports Minnesota, and you can get that on the app as well. And you can take it anywhere. You can take it on the airplane. You can take it on the go, because the app, you can download some of the podcasts right there to the SXM app, and you can take it anywhere you want to go. So imagine having SiriusXM on the go when you travel and you Bluetooth it to the car you're rented. Hey, solution solved. Just check out their easy plans. There's a bunch of them out there. But again, just download the SXM app to get started. All right, Sam, it's time for the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. Probably spend about 30 seconds each. Went a little bit long with Robert Blanton. So take it away.
Yeah, we might need to go over 30 seconds to try to talk about this Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah, we'll hit a little bit on Pat Fitzgerald.
Well, yeah, Pat Fitzgerald, let's try to sum it up. So, allegations of hazing, not good. Fitzgerald suspended for 2 games. Then the allegations intensified and included some allegations of racism in the program. There are players coming out saying none of this is true. Other players are doubling down and saying this absolutely is true. Fitzgerald is denying his involvement, and he's going to court or going to the legal system to try to get his job back. It's all very messy. What do you make of it?
One, it's going to be tough to even want, like, would you want to go back after somebody fired you? Like, I get Northwestern trying to save face, but it's almost like your girlfriend breaks up with you and she's ready to move on. Because this is the thing, Northwestern has to move on. Like, once they fire Pat Fitzgerald, they can't sit this entire offseason because the games are coming. Like, August 31st and 27th is coming. Like, it's literally like a month and a half away. So they don't have time to really wait for Pat Fitzgerald to go through the legal system, because we know the legal system is not quick. So if it takes them a month and then they figure out, like, we're still good with firing you, then they have 2 weeks to find a coach, or, and this could happen, maybe this whole season, because they were 1-11 last year. Maybe this whole season is an interim head coach. That could be the case too, where they're like, look, we're not going to hire a coach anyway because there's not enough time. We don't even know what candidates are out there. Let's just have an interim coach for the season. Maybe this guy earns the job. That way the staff doesn't have to get fired as well. They're going to be here. But this is my question too. The head coach literally doesn't know as much as the position coaches. Position coaches are there more with their players. They talk to their players more. The head coach, I didn't see Glenn Mason as much as I saw Joker Phillips. And so that's the thing. Glenn Mason didn't know half the crap I did. Joker did. Like, Joker would show up to my dorm room sometimes. Mason has never come to my dorm room. He's never come to my apartment door and knocked on it. Joker Phillips has. Joker Phillips has come to my class. Joker Phillips has come to, like, an event I had. Glenn Mason, he's graduation. He's game day. He has too many players to worry about, where Joker had 9. So when you think about that, the position coaches are just as liable as Pat Fitzgerald, if not more liable, because they probably knew some of this stuff. Like, they probably heard from their players, whether they joked about it in meetings after the fact, or they brought up that it was going to happen in the meetings. Like, yo, freshman, watch out, man. You about to get it. You know, like, they don't do that around the head coach, but they are comfortable around the assistant coaches. They're comfortable around the GAs, like the grad assistant. He definitely knew something. Like, that's where the Penn State thing came from. The grad assistant knew, and he told Joe Paterno, and Joe Paterno ignored it, or allegedly. That's kind of how they said it. Like, the guy said he went and tried to tell Joe Paterno, and he claimed he didn't get what he, his response wasn't satisfiable. So I think that's where Pat Fitzgerald, the head of the snake, always gets cut off first, but then you have to let the body die. If you got to fire everybody, and because everybody had to have known. Either one didn't know or one knew. Somebody knew. Maybe Pat Fitzgerald wasn't the guy, but he's just liable. And so I don't know if I want to go back. I don't know if I would want to go back to that. Like, I really wouldn't. Like, you've been fired. Why would you want to go back? As far as the hazing, we know people do it. Now, some of the stuff I've heard of how their hazing is, like turning into like sexual type stuff, like a little weird, very weird, like very weird. And then as far as the racism side of it, again, sometimes people just double down and throw stuff out there. But again, I don't feel like a bunch of players, because somebody said like, oh, a player said we're going to get Pat Fitzgerald fired, so let's do this. I don't know if that's the plan. Like, because there has to be, like, sometimes there's baseless allegations and then there's allegations that have some steam. This one feels like it has steam because it's more than just one player saying this and accounting the same type of stuff. And for the other players to say this did not happen, like, maybe you could say it didn't happen the way they're saying it, but something definitely happened. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when there's this much smoke, there's got to be a little fire. My guess is that Fitzgerald is fighting this legal battle to ensure that his buyout is, or that he still collects some of this contract, because I think he's got how many tens of millions on that deal through 2030. Right. He wants to make sure that he gets paid on his way out. I would assume maybe he doesn't expect to coach again. But apparently they went from suspended to fired. Like, they violated that agreement with no prior notice. That's what he's claiming. I don't know what that means necessarily. But it's super messy. And who can you believe, Ron, at this point? Like, a lot of this stuff probably happened in the dark of night, and it's just he said about how it went down and who knew about it. There's so many lies being told that you almost have to just make a clean cut and start over. Really unfortunate for that program. I don't know what they're going to do this year, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah, maybe we need to open tomorrow with the rest of this, because there's a lot to unfold here with Pat Fitzgerald. But we got to move on to the next one. What you got next?
Yeah, a little lighter topic. MLB All-Star Game tonight in Seattle. I want to know from you, what is your favorite of the major All-Star games?
Honestly, I don't even need 30 seconds. None of them. They suck. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, baseball might be the best for the, like, home run derby, but even that's kind of changed now. I saw a dude, forgot his name, Christian Meyer, or Bristen Meyer, or I don't know. He batted right-handed, then batted left-handed, then batted right-handed. Hit like
Adley
Rutschman. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It looked like I knew it was, batted right-handed, then went switch left-hand. Like, to me, it's become like the All-Star game for basketball. Way too easy now, ridiculous. It used to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more. Jordan and them used to go at it. The Hall of Fame game, or not the Hall of Fame, but the Pro Bowl used to be a little bit more intense. Now it's a freaking 7-on-7. Baseball, you got basketball, football, hockey, maybe hockey, I guess, because they're still skating around. I didn't even watch it. I know they did like a 3-on-3 maybe or something like that. So maybe I got to watch hockey. Like, right now, I feel like hockey might be the best opportunity because they still actually play and they don't feel like they're going to get hurt just skating around. Like, basketball doesn't want to play hard. They don't want to sweat. They don't want to play defense. Like, none of them. Like, hockey might be the best one. So I'm going to go with hockey right now because that's the only one I feel like is still true to what they're trying to do. Yeah,
the more gimmicky they've gotten, I think the more watered down they've gotten. I don't care to watch any of them, just like you. I mean, maybe 3-point contest, dunk contest, the skills stuff, but
the quarterback's throwing the ball, the receivers doing their, like, even the receiver catch, like, dunk contest they were trying to do, like, make a cool catch and then we'll grade it. Stupid. Like, go back to the old school stuff of just running through drills, catch, run around cones. How fast did he do it? Quarterbacks, let's throw, hit targets, stuff moves. Like, go back to the Peyton Manning days. Like, I would even like to see them do the long drive contest, the tug of war. Like, bring some of that stuff, the relay race. Like, bring some of that stuff back because this other stuff is terrible. What's the last one?
Last one. Kat and Chris Finch have been talking during Summer League, and they're hinting that, hey, we might use all three of our big men on the court at the same time. Nas, Kat, Rudy. You've been talking for a while, Ron, saying that it's a guard-driven league. What do you make of this philosophy?
The Warriors are going to shoot them off the court, period. they're going to shoot them off the court, and then they're going to have to figure out what guards they need to bring on to guard Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, Draymond Green. Like Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, karl-anthony Towns, defensively. Now, if you're going to run a 2-3 zone, great. Go run a 2-3 zone. And then when you come down on offense, though, like Gobert doesn't have a post game. He doesn't really have a mid-range jumper. He's not Joel Embiid. Like if it was Joel Embiid, karl-anthony Towns, and Naz Reid, I'd say go for it. Like go for that. Because you got Joel Embiid, who's an absolute creator. He can shoot. He can score. And then you got karl-anthony Towns. You got Naz Reid for defense. If it was Joker, karl-anthony Towns, and Naz Reid, I'd say go for it because you got a center that can create, can pass. Rudy Gobert is like a black hole. He gets the ball and you don't know what's going to happen. He may or may not make a shot, but he's going to do something stupid maybe too. I'm not a fan of that, those three on the court together. Like defensively, I like those two bigs other than karl-anthony Towns. Offensively, I like karl-anthony Towns, but Naz Reid and Gobert are more hustler. Like you don't have the recipe to do what you're trying to do unless you're going to 2-3 zone. It's like spaghetti. You throw it up against the wall, see what sticks. That's what I think they're trying to do right now with this team because that to me is just another thing to put ourselves in the headlines this week. I feel like Adam Silver said, hey, create some headlines for the Timberwolves. And they said, all right, 3 bigs. Boom, let's put it out there. Like that's literally what it feels like. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
You mentioned friendly fire with Andrew Sendejo. If we had all 3 of those bigs jockeying for post position at the same time, we'd have some friendly fire. Gobert would elbow Naz. He would elbow Cat with those sharp elbows. It would be ugly because Naz's best trait is that he can drive and slash to the rim. Well,
right.
How is he going to get there if Rudy Gobert is taking up an 8-foot wingspan?
Correct.
I think they're just kind of pumping our tires here. I don't think they're serious about this. I hope
they
they're
can't be serious. I hope they're not serious. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Make sure you guys download Locked On Sports Minnesota wherever you find your podcast. Also, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube, Roku, and Amazon Fire. Locked On Sports is everywhere. Just download any one of those apps. Search Locked On Sports Minnesota. You can find the Ron Johnson Show. We want to thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe too. Please subscribe or follow. Whichever device you're using, hit the follow button or subscribe button. That matters to us. We really need the subscribers and the followers. We love it. And also comment. Let us know your thoughts on the show. Any of the topics you want to talk about or discuss, you can tweet under our videos. You can go to YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. Tweet under the videos and the shows, and we'll definitely interact with you there. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Have a great day.